What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay guys, so we are actually going to continue our coverage over the Destiny of X era of X-Men comics. Now with that being said, we actually do pick up right now with X-Men number 9. Now when it comes to X-Men number 9, it's all about the idea that right now we're going to focus on 3 different groups. And these 3 different groups are voting on different things that could affect a future war to come down the road. Now, when it comes to this future war, of course, the mutants are involved in this war, but of course, the other side is going to be Orchids. Orchids is trying right now to do something big to get rid of the mutant race. And so with that being said, we're going to see 3 different groups right now technically vote on some very important matters that could affect a future war to come in X-Men comics. And so that is the moment where we actually do pick up with the Quiet Council. Now, the Quiet Council is going to be the first group we're going to focus on. And the reason why, because right now they are technically voting on the idea of going to war against Orchids. Now this is actually very important. And the reason why, because when it comes to war, usually you're going to have a lot of people die. Because usually when it comes to war, people die in wars. But here's the thing though, we have to remember, when it comes to the mutant nation, they made a law. Mutants are not allowed to kill humans. But right now it's Charles saying, let's have a secret war. Technically meaning that let's use some characters right now to actually attack Orchids. And of course, it might kill some humans, but we're not going to share that detail at all with the rest of the mutants who are on the island. So that it seems we're actually following the laws we made for our nation. But then we jump over to Orchids. Now, when we do, we actually see them right now having a meeting. Now, when it comes to the characters at this meeting, most of the characters you would expect to be here for this meeting. So, for example, you have Dr. Devo, and usually Dr. Devo is the person who's in charge of Orchids. But on top of that, you also have Dr. Stasis as well. Now, Dr. Stasis is a newer character, but it would make sense for him to actually be part of this group. Now, you also have Nimrod as well, and Nimrod's been around for a good while now. But one character is actually new to this group, and that is Abigail Brand. Now, the reason why she's here is unknown, but when it comes to Abigail Brand, she is a mutant, which is kind of crazy because right now it means that Orchid is down to use a mutant to help get rid of the rest of the mutants. But with that being said, we have to remember, when it comes to Abigail Brand, she is technically running SWORD. And when it comes to SWORD, SWORD is basically this program that protects the Earth and Mars from any kind of alien attacks. But on top of that, Abigail Brand and SWORD, they work very close to the mutant nations, Arako and Krakoa. And so with her being here, it's kind of like, what is she doing right now? Now that is the moment where you have Dr. Stasis say, listen, I feel like we should technically recruit MODOK. Now the reason why he is saying that, because what happened in our last video, because remember, MODOK was able to actually produce some kind of new drug that affects your brain, that makes you actually want to fight more than usual. And right now, when it comes to Dr. Stasis, he actually wants to use that drug on the mutant race. Now that right there is very huge. And so of course, we actually do see Dr. Stasis and Nimrod being able to break MODOK out of prison, which honestly is kind of crazy because now you're saying MODOK is going to be a important bad guy for future books down the road. But then we jump over to Arako. Now, when we do jump over to Arako, we do see the Great Ring right now having a vote. Now, when it comes to the Great Ring, it's very similar to the Quiet Council. It is the government body of Arako. Now, here's the thing though. Remember, Arako is on Mars. And right now we have most of the members of the Great Ring telling Storm that technically they hate being here on Mars. Like, yes, they love Arako, but they hate the idea of being on Mars. And the reason why? Because they miss war. Because remember, they were trapped in Armeth. And when it came to Armeth, they were in a constant war. And of course, right now, they're missing that. And unfortunately, being on Mars, they have to fight against each other. And honestly, they hate that. And so right now, you have the Great Ring say, we want to go back to Otherworld. Now, here's the problem though. They can't do that, because if you have been following my Excalibur series, we saw that technically right now, the way to Otherworld is closed right now. And so unfortunately, they're technically stuck right now. And so this vote is basically pointless. Now, of course, Storm is lucky. And the reason why, because you actually have the island of Arako say, no, we are not going to go back to Otherworld. Now, this is actually huge. And the reason why, because when it comes to Arako, Arako does have a vote in a lot of different things when it comes to the Great Ring. Unfortunately, though, no one has been able to actually communicate with Arako. And the reason why, because one character known as Redroot has been captured and trapped inside Otherworld. And so unfortunately, nobody else has been able to actually communicate with the island until now, because it seems that Storm is somewhat being able to actually talk to the island. And right now you have Storm saying, I'm sorry, but it seems like Arako does not want to go back to Armeth. And so yes, you guys want to go, but when it comes to Arako, it does not want to go. It wants to stay here. And so it seems like you guys might have to go back there without your island. But again though, they can't go because Otherworld is actually closed at the moment. Now that is the moment where we actually do pick up right now with Rogue and Gambit. And right now you have Rogue and Gambit paying a visit over to Cosmo. Now when it comes to Cosmo, he is technically a talking dog, but doesn't actually use his voice. He technically uses his mind to actually talk to other people. Either way though, the reason why you have Gambit and also Rogue here right now talking to Cosmo, because right now they're trying to get any kind of information about where in the world is Game World. Now remember, Game World is technically right now this spaceship that's right now moving around the universe. But on the spaceship, you're able to play different kind of gambling games. Now, when it came to Game World though, they have been attacking the Earth in the earlier issues of X-Men comics of this series right here. And so right now, it's Gambit and Rogue saying, we're trying to find Game World and technically stop their owner, Cordyceps Jones. Now, unfortunately, you have Cosmo say, I cannot tell you where to find Game World. Matter of fact, I just told another mutant the same thing. Now for Gambit and Rogue, they're kind of like, what do you mean the other mutant? And of course, that is the moment they come to find out that Destiny is there as well. Now this is actually very huge. And the reason why, because Destiny is actually the stepmother to Rogue. When Rogue was adopted by Mystique, Destiny was there as well as like a second mother. And with that being said though, it's Destiny saying, I hate Gambit. Now the reason why she hates Gambit is unknown, but she's kind of like, listen, I love Rogue like a daughter. And matter of fact, she is my daughter. And so you know what I hate the most is coming back to life and hearing that technically my daughter got married to you. And I hate you with a flaming passion. And again though, we have no exact reason why. Now, you do have Rogue and Gambit getting a bar fight because right now they're hoping that someone in this bar will be able to tell them where in the world they can find Game World. Unfortunately, no one in the bar can actually tell them where is Game World. Now, when this section actually ends, you do have Gambit being able to say something smart back to Destiny in a way to get under her skin and say, yeah, you may love her, but I love her too. But my love is actually real. Your love is kind of not that real. Bye. And of course, you have Destiny once again get very upset. And so to close on this video, you actually do have Storm pay a visit over to Sunfire. Now, when she does that, it's her right now finding out that Sunfire is actually moving over to Arako. Now, this is Sunfire saying, listen, even though I'm right now moving to Arako is technically just a resting point. And what he means by that is his next goal in life is to be able to travel deep into space to see how far he's able to actually travel in space with his powers. And so right now, when it comes to Arako, it's just a resting place. Now that is the moment where you actually have Sunfire say, hey Storm, I actually want to show you something very important, because when it comes to Sunfire, he did bring some flowers from Japan. But the thing is though, the flowers began to mutate in a different kind of way. And so what he wants to show Storm right now is what happened to his flowers. And we kind of find out that Arako is trying to communicate with Storm, but also communicate with Sunfire as well. And apparently is right now Arako saying, we need to get back my friend Redroot, because I want her back here right now, because she was the one person who could actually communicate with me. And so with that being said, is Storm saying to Sunfire, it seems like Arako is trying to give us a message. But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.